Hi everybody, good morning. It's Tricia Roberts here with our live art on Wednesday, April 15th. Today's class is about weaving, so I'm going to hang out for just a minute or two before we get started to let people hop on. I'm a minute early, but I was too excited this morning. I do have my computer next to me just in case anybody has a question or a comment, things like that. So we'll wait just a couple minutes. Oh, how's everybody doing this week? I've had a couple of funky days. Just maybe it's the cold weather coming back, maybe it's the snow. But I definitely was like really into being outside with my family, and now we're kind of stuck inside because our kids are still pretty small. So I'm just hopeful that, it warms up a little bit here soon. Today's class, as I said, is on weaving techniques. And so I had to do a little learning with this too. I haven't done weaving since I was in probably grade school or maybe middle school. But it's kind of fun. A lot of times we have these supplies around our house. When I was a kid, my grandmother taught me how to knit. And then when I was in college, I taught myself how to crochet. And so now I have a ton of yarn at my house. So that's sort of what inspired this. When I get anxious, when I get nervous, I like to be constantly doing stuff with my hands. So that's where weaving is today. The PAC, we miss you guys. We can't wait to be back up and running like normal. But thank you for coming and participating with me in this way. I will put a link in the comments again that takes you to a Google form. I've had a couple people respond. Thank you so much. It's really helpful to get your feedback and to get your ideas of things that we can be working on together too. So, okay. Oh, one other thing. Mill Street Live, our summer performance group, we are putting together a virtual concert. You might have seen some advertisements for it. It'll be presented tomorrow night on our Facebook page. So kind of like you're watching me live, we'll put up a video that will be live. Now we're not all together or streaming it at the same time just because our internets have been a little slow or a little funky. But everybody's been sending me videos that they've created over the last couple days of them performing. So we've got a whole set of songs. It'll be really fun. We're asking if you are willing or if you're able to donate to the PAC, kind of like buying a ticket, but you'll be able to watch the show after tomorrow night too. It's not just on tomorrow night. So check out the link. It's called Happy Together, and it's our Mill Street alumni kind of gearing up, and we're really hopeful that our cast will get to perform this summer as well. So stay tuned for that. Okay, let's get started with some weaving. Now, I think this is also kind of like what have Tricia and Tom been eating this week, because I'm using a lot of our takeout containers or like what we've been getting. So this week's art project is sponsored by Parker John's Pizza. That's the cardboard that I've been using, which is really good, by the way, if you're looking to support a local place. Today we're going to be making cardboard looms. I have a rectangle, I have a circle. We're going to be going back and forth with some different ideas. Now this is probably for an older person, kid, adult, teen, anywhere in between. I would not be doing this probably with my toddler, especially today. He's having a rough one. But I did find some other examples of weaving with a hole punch and a paper plate, and we'll show those after. But first we're going to talk through how to make a cardboard loom, either circular or rectangular. And then we'll get to more of the kid-friendly activities after that. So when you're making a loom, again, you need to find some cardboard, a paper plate, Amazon box, diaper box, Parker John's pizza box, whatever you have laying around. And you're gonna wanna cut it into the shape that you're using. So for example, I started this one yesterday and I wanted to do more of a rectangle, but I also saw an example that used a circle. So I cut out both shapes. I did a rectangle and a circle. Let's start with the rectangle because I think this is more of a traditional loom situation. What I did is I measured across the top, and what you're going to want to do is to cut equally 12 notches. Okay, so 12 on the top and 12 on the bottom. You can use a ruler, you can measure. I didn't quite measure. I used the lines that you can kind of see in the cardboard, and that's how I did my measurement across. But you can always measure out exactly how you want to do it. and then cut in your lines. The second thing that you want to do is you want to cut your base string. So I've used different colors. This is kind of like a bluish gray. So this is my base. And what I did is I measured out one string, okay? I notched it in just to see what length I needed, because you want to have tails, okay, that you can tape down. I didn't choose to tape mine down because I'm not worried about them coming off. My cardboard is pretty tight, but you can choose after you put them in to tape them down so they stay in place. This is a really great idea if you're working with children, for example. So anyways, 12 notches is what I did here. That's a really good number. You want to keep it even, because when you're finishing, you're tying off the ends, and so it's really good to have an even number versus like the lonely guy hanging on the outside. You don't want to get to that situation. So 12 notches for here. And then you'll need 12 base strings. Okay, so if you're working on a rectangle, that's what you'll want to do. If you're working on a circle, I'm going to just pause and hop over to the circle really quick. Cut out a circle. I used one of our bowls, and then I also used a permanent marker, and I also made a couple marks on our bowls. So I would not use a permanent marker on something or around something that you really like. That's not good. So anyways, sorry, Tom, marked up our bowl. I drew a circle, I cut out the circle, and then I took my ruler and I drew lines across. And when I was done, I drew 4 lines so that it would be 8 notches. Again, when you cut in your notches, you want to make sure they're the same depth too. You don't want to cut all the way down here for one and like close to the top for the other. You want to cut in about a 1/2 inch, I would say, is a good distance. Instead of doing 8 then different strings here, or 4 different strings for the 8 notches, I'm going to just use one longer string. And I'm going to get my base set by tucking in the first corner. I'm probably going to tape this one because I want it to stay put. Okay. Then I'm going to follow the line and then notch it in. Okay. Going from the back, I'm going to pick the next notch. Okay. Follow the line, notch it in. I'm going to keep going around my circle for my next notch, notch it in. There we go. This notch, and my final. Okay, I do have a little bit of a tail. I'm going to cut this. I'm going to just tape it back here too so my base is sturdy. Great. Again, at any time if you have a question or want me to show something slower or differently, please let me know. Also, you can always go back and rewatch the video after it's finished. Okay. Now I should point out, my plan is not to take the weaving off of this cardboard. I'm going to leave it on this cardboard when I display it. When we're working on the rectangle, I'm going to show you guys how to take this off of the loom. So when you're displaying it, you just have your weaving. Okay. So I have my base created here. I've tucked in, pretend like I haven't started my weaving pattern yet. I've tucked in my 12 different strings. Okay. And I may or may not have taped them depending on how I'm feeling. If I'm feeling a little risky, maybe I didn't tape them. That's kind of where I'm at today. Okay, so my boards, my looms, and my base are ready to go. Okay, now we're getting ready to start our actual weaving process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a piece of string, a decent amount of length, okay, because you can always cut it down shorter as you go if you want to change colors, for example, but it's harder to add in than to take away, okay, kind of like cutting a piece of wood. Once you cut it off, you can't put it back on, okay. Yarn is a little bit more forgiving, but again, it's easier just to overestimate and then cut back from there. Now, some of you might have like yarn or knitting needles, right? Those plastic needles that you can tuck the yarn into, and it's used for weaving like your crochet end or your knitted end back in. If you have that, use it, great. If you don't, I don't quite know where mine is right now. I'm gonna make myself a tape needle. So I'm gonna take a piece of tape. I'm going to tuck it around my edge. This might be a little hard to see. Okay, I'm gonna wrap it around my yarn tightly. Okay, and then I'm gonna flatten out the edge a little bit. And I'm gonna leave some of the tape exposed at the top. That might be really, can you see that? Okay, I'm gonna cut off this end because it's partially exposed there. But now I have a really nice guide, especially if you're working and you need a little bit more help with control. It's nice to have a little bit of a guide at the top. Okay, so I'm going to switch to my rectangle here. As you can see, I have my taped in. When we are weaving, we're gonna do an over-under pattern. So you can see when I started this, I left a little tail. These are called tails, which I think is really cute. When you start, you wanna leave a tail. I didn't tie this on at all. If you are working with children, I would tie it to your first part of your base here, just to make sure that it stays in place. Or you could take it actually and tape it around the back too, just so it stays there. After a couple rows of weaving, you wouldn't have to worry about it sliding off. It should be pretty secure. But again, just to be safe. You want to do an over-under pattern when you're weaving. So if you watch me here, my line, my row here ended under. So I'm going to go right over that line, and then I'm going to go under the next. So I'm over line 1, under line 2, over line 3, under line 4, over, under. You're going to keep going. Hoping you guys can see this here. It's a little awkward. Okay, and then I get to the end of my line, and in this case I am ending over. So to start my next line, I'm not going to cut the yarn, I'm going to keep it going. Okay, and I'm going to go underneath that last one to hug it, to wrap it. And then I'm going to continue by going over and under. So if you're doing this while you're watching me here, I'm going to get this line done, this row done, and then I'm going to swap over and show you how to start the circle, okay, if that's what you've chosen today. It's really good if you're feeling down to expose yourself to your senses, which maybe sounds really funny to say. But like focusing on colors, on textures, on smells, on music, on listening to anything or seeing anything or looking at pictures, things like that. Just awakening your senses is a really great way to like kind of brighten yourself up. So this has been really helpful to me. I have like some of my favorite colors of yarn here. Okay, so you can see my rows are dipped a little funny. After I'm done, I'm gonna just give it a little tug here, and I'm gonna just put it down so I can do it appropriately. I'm gonna push up my rows that I just did, okay? So you can see that they're closer and tighter together. All right, so that's the rectangle. When starting the circle, I'm also gonna use orange on this one. You wanna pick one of the rungs as your starter, and you're going to want to take your non-needle end, right? So this is my tape needle. So your other end, and you're going to want to tie it on right at the center. I would use a double knot. 1 and uh-oh. My yarn is coming apart. Trying again. Double knot in the center. Again, this one is staying on the loom. So in order to hide that tail, we can just like weave around it. And I might cut it short here. Okay, so I've got my knot on here. I'm gonna push that towards the center. I'm going to cut my tail a little bit here. Don't do it on the rectangle, but you can do it on the circle, because we're gonna weave over it and kind of weave it in. And the same thing here, I'm going to start, I'm tied on, I'm gonna go under the next, let's see where I am here, and then over. And we're gonna go in a circular pattern. caught up here. Okay. Under and over and under. Now as I get to that knot, right, I want to kind of go right over it, okay, so I can tuck it in a little bit and hide it. So I'm going to pull through for a minute. There we go. Do you see? I don't know if you can see that, but I kind of caught it in there to pin it down. I'm going to just whip through a couple rounds here so you can see what's happening. So under, over, under, over. You can do this, right, without having to pull it tight each time. So I went around the circle once and now I'm going to pull it tight. There we go. Oops. This string feels a little long to manipulate. So if you want to start with a shorter string and do maybe a smaller color in the middle, again, as you go and get further out on your circle, you are going to need more string to make the color. Okay, so here you go. You can see here that I have a little orange center now. And I would keep going until either I run out of yarn or I'm ready to change a color. Okay, so over, under with that. I'm going to show you color change on the rectangle next, okay? So I've gotten to, I don't know, this feels a little too short to get to the other side. So I'm going to leave this here and I'm going to start my next color, okay? So again, I'm gonna do purple this time. I'm gonna make my needle with some tape, wrap it around. This one's a little bit interesting. That's okay, we can work with it. Can work with that. Going to cut off the sticky part at the top so it doesn't stick to everything. There we go. Okay, again, when I start this one, I'm not gonna tie it, right, to this. I'm going to, because it's a rectangle, I'm going to leave it. You could tie it. There's no rule against tying it, but I'm gonna choose not to tie it. And I'm going to start where I left off, okay? And I'm gonna start going under. So I left off under, no, I'm gonna start going over. That would make more sense. So I'm gonna go over, under, over, under, and I'm going to pull this through, but I'm still going to leave that tail, okay? And this is important because when we're ready to finish, we're going to use that to weave back in, okay? So now I have, you can see my first row of my next color. I'm gonna go back, I'm gonna just secure the row for myself really quickly. Go back and do another row. Again, make sure you're hugging that first string on either side, no matter which way that you're starting. If I remember correctly, I think one of my grandparents had a loom. And I never really was into weaving. Again, I could knit, but like scarves, I could knit a scarf. I was good at scarves for a long time. Don't tell Tom, but a lot of my boyfriends, well, not a lot. I didn't have like a ton of boyfriends, you know, but a bunch of my boyfriends got scarves as gifts. I don't know if I ever made Tom a scarf. I made him a blanket though, and that's when I learned how to crochet. But that was hard. Anyway, that's probably more about my life than you need to know. That's fine, that's fine. Okay, I have my second row of purple done. And again, I'm just going to make sure that it's tight, pull that in. Okay, now that I have 2 rows done, I'm going to take my 2 tails here and I'm going to tie them together. Okay, you don't want to tie it too tight, but I would say a double knot would be good so it's secure. And that way, okay, as we go, you don't have to worry about it. I accidentally, look at this, I have an oopsie. Do you see? I went over instead of over under. So I will probably take this out and redo that. Okay, So when you're color changing on the wheel, same principle, okay? You're gonna leave a tail. Maybe tie it off if you want to. Once you have that first round done, take the two and tie them together so you have a little knot so it's secure, and then leave a tail. The reason for the tail, and I'll show you this based on our first one, when you're getting ready to finish, you want to make sure that you have enough room here to weave it back in. So I would go over, under, maybe at the top, to weave this back in a few lines, and then maybe when I get 3 or 4 lines in, I would take it and I would cut it. So instead of having to knot it in, you just weave it back through. Okay, same principle if you're a knitter, if you're a crocheter, you would do the same thing as you're switching colors there as well. Okay, so let's pretend that this is beautifully filled out all the way. I'm not gonna have you guys watch me weave the whole time. When it's time to take this off the loom and you feel good and finished, etc., you're going to take 2 of your strings off at a time. So of your base, I'm going to undo these, okay? Then you're going to tie a double knot. Again, you've woven all of your tails in at this point too. I'm just not going to demonstrate that for you because I think you can handle it. Okay, so there's a double knot. Again, this is going to look a little wonky because it's not totally finished. Okay, then you do another double knot with ropes 3 and 4, 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12, etc. Okay. At the end, I'll finish this and I'll send some pictures of some finished products. I've seen a lot of people take like a tree branch and like wrap it around or tie it using your little tails here. You could do this and make cute little coasters. You could make a bookmark. It might be a little thick for a bookmark, but maybe if you do it with ribbon or something like that, it could be a cute bookmark. Lots of different possibilities for weaving. Okay, so if you have any questions with this one, let me know. With this, you keep going around the circle until you're as far up as you want to go. And then to finish, if you're not taking it off, go to the back side and tape it on. And then this is great, like you could use it as a turret too. You know what I mean? Or you could hang it on the wall. Lots of different things. I've seen for some alterations, you could add beads as you go. I saw really cool examples using different thicknesses, different colors. You know, there are some yarns that have like pom-poms or kind of like glitter things. I don't know. Check to see what you have at home if you have yarn. Other materials you could use again are ribbon. If you have littles and you want to just practice the over-under situation, you could cut strips of paper to tape them to a table and then have them manipulate. Great fine motor skills. Okay, that's the cardboard weaving section. Up next, we have a paper plate weaving section, and this is, I would think, more for if maybe you're not great with your hands, maybe you have arthritis, things like this, might be a little bit easier on your hands, or this is something that I would try with my toddler. So what I did is I used a hole punch that I have. It's rectangular. It's just the one that I could find. And I punched in the shape of a heart on part of a paper plate. I started off by tying a knot in my yarn at the back, and I went through one of the holes, and then I picked a different hole to thread through, and then I came through the back. Okay, so I'll just demonstrate that a little bit. So again, I'm through the back. So I want to try to get the shape of the heart here. Really into hearts these days. So you can see forward, front, and back. And we want to just keep it on the, we don't want to like wrap around, if that makes sense. Maybe I'll put that back through this hole, again, trying to establish the shape of a heart. If you have littles who are doing this, just let them go crazy. Maybe it'll help keep their attention a little bit. Maybe you can help introduce them to a different shape. Like, let's see what shape we can make. You could make a circle, a square. And then when you're all done, you can take out the yarn too and reuse it. It doesn't have to be a one-time use project. So I'm going to just keep going here through the same holes a couple of times too, again, to try to get that shape to come to life. Now I'm sure you could use multiple colors here too. I'm just choosing to use one. So this again is making that heart shape with holes into a paper that make the outline of the shape. Maybe I'll go down here like this. You can kind of see the heart coming together, right? The heart shape. So again, I would keep going, continue to go through different holes and the same holes, taking different paths to reinforce that shape. I would suggest a circular hole punch. It would maybe be easier to get your yarn through after it's been a couple times here. Here, I'm gonna connect this one. Oops, that's my knot. Make sure your knot's big enough, or you could tape it. Tape is my best friend these days. Okay, so you can start seeing like the heart shape that's coming through. So that's one idea. Another one, ooh, I'm a little embarrassed about my heart in this one. It was really difficult to cut out this plate. Also, I don't know why I bought dinner plates this big when I bought them. This is my last one. We've been trying to use more of our plates at home. But this idea is to fill the negative space, okay? So again, I knotted it. Learning what I just did over there, I'm going to double knot it to make a bigger knot. And I'm going to tape the back just to help me if I get excited and pull too hard. So double knot, there we go. A little tape. So I'm gonna pull it all the way through. Okay, tape it down just for some security. And again, this doesn't have to be a one-time activity. You could do it several times again if you're looking for fine motor skills with kids. This is a good one. Here we go. Let's put it in. Okay, so then I'm gonna just start stringing. Again, back to front, front to back. I'm going to try to fill that negative space. I'm going to adjust my needle here. It's not going through very easy, so I'm going to make it more of a point, cut the tape. I don't know if you can see. Does that help? Maybe. But you can see that it's a little bit of a point. Okay, and I'm going to string it through. Again, when you're doing this project, you want to make sure that your yarn is long enough to go through a couple times. So I'm already finding that my yarn is maybe not as long as I need it. And that I think comes from practice. So here we go. You can start seeing how the shape, maybe if I use my sweater here, you can see the color a little bit better. The shape is coming through. Okay, great. All right, so just to reiterate a little bit, we have our cardboard looms, okay? Rectangular, cut the different slots, right, or the different strings to put through to make your base. The circular, if you're gonna keep it on the loom, you can use one and just tape it to the back. Again, that over-under pattern as you go. If you're switching colors, leave a tail so we can work it back in. And when you're finished, make sure you tie off those ends. You weave in your tails to make a more finished product. If you're working with the more of the fine motor skill, you can punch out a hole shape, right? So little holes to make a shape. Okay, again, make sure you tie or tape this to the back as you're working on it so it doesn't just like fly out on you. Or you can try the one with the negative space too. Okay, I'll work on these a little bit. I'll post some finished pictures. Again, I'll also post a link with feedback. You can let me know how our video and sound quality is. You can let me know if you have any questions or if there's always something that you've wanted to learn how to make but don't know how to make it, like let me know and I can learn and I can try to teach you too. Again, we wish we were at the PAC. We wish we had classes running. We'll try to get the information out to you guys as soon as we know when we're up and running again or what's happening with classes already scheduled. But feel free to email us, call us, send us a message. We're happy to help and assist you. And if you have time this week, especially tomorrow night, and are interested in watching our virtual cabaret, we'd love to see you there too. Thank you all so much. Again, I'm Tricia Roberts. Let us see your projects, tag us in it. Yeah, happy art, happy crafting. Nice to see you guys today. Bye-bye.